The mountains were silent, but silence rarely meant peace. Dawn crept slowly over jagged peaks, brushing frost-covered rocks with a pale, gold light that barely cut through the morning mist. The air was sharp and thin, carrying the scent of pine and the faint tang of something metallic from earlier skirmishes, memories of blood and conflict lingering like ghosts. Somewhere far below, a river whispered over stones, its flow gentle but relentless, as if mocking the tension perched above on the ridge. The SEAL team moved carefully, boots barely touching the ground, each step measured, each breath controlled, a choreography honed by countless hours of training and mission drills. Commander Jace Lawson led the formation. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned every contour of the rocky terrain. There was a ridge up ahead, jagged and unyielding, shrouded in fog. His team had nicknamed it the Spine, for the way it sliced the mountain range like the backbone of some colossal, sleeping beast. To an ordinary soldier, the Spine would have seemed an unremarkable stretch of wilderness. To Jace and his SEALs, it was a battlefield, a trap, and a proving ground. Every shadow could conceal a sniper. Every whisper of wind could carry a warning or death. He raised a hand, signaling the team to halt. They obeyed instantly, a seamless unit of muscle and mind. Around him, the other SEALs mirrored his alertness, scanning the ridge with an intensity that made even the mist feel like a living thing. There was a rhythm to their movements, a subtle language of gestures, glances, and half-whispered words that only those who had trained together for years could understand. Trust here was absolute because hesitation could be fatal. The team's youngest member, Petty Officer Ryan Hawk Callahan, adjusted his rifle and exhaled slowly. His eyes, wide and alert, darted along the rocks and shadows. This was his first mission at this altitude, under these conditions. He had trained in simulators, in urban combat zones, even in mock mountain exercises, but nothing could replicate the feeling of standing on the precipice of danger where every decision mattered. He felt the weight of his body armor, the cold metal of his weapon, the tension coiled like a spring in his chest. Next to him, Sergeant Miguel Viper Santos checked his night vision scope, scanning the ridge with meticulous patience. His face was calm, but the subtle tightening of his jaw betrayed the alertness of a man who had seen too many firefights end too quickly. He had survived ambushes where the odds were hopeless, and had carried wounded teammates back from the brink of death more times than he cared to count. Still, every mission was different. Every ridge held secrets. Every enemy had a mind of its own. Jace crouched slightly, whispering to the team. "We move in 3. Eyes up. Keep calm silent. Watch your sectors." His voice was low, calm, and authoritative, the kind of voice that demanded attention without raising fear. The team nodded, weapons ready, muscles coiled like springs. They were trained to act as one entity, thinking together, breathing together, moving together. But Jace knew better than anyone that even the most synchronized team could falter when faced with an enemy who was not only skilled but invisible, almost supernatural. The Spine loomed ahead, jagged rocks jutting like the teeth of some ancient beast. Mist curled around them, softening edges, hiding pits and cracks, concealing movement. It was a deceptive beauty, one that had swallowed more soldiers than bullets had. Jace paused, studying the ridge, his mind racing through possibilities. Enemy snipers could be perched anywhere, on rocky outcrops, in shallow caves, even hidden among trees further up. One miscalculated step, one flicker of movement, and the mission could turn from tactical insertion to desperate survival. He glanced back at his men. Each face told a story. Hawk's eagerness mixed with fear, Viper's calm resolve masking nerves honed over years of combat, and the others, veterans all silent and poised. There was a bond among them forged in danger, trust forged in shared missions where mistakes had consequences measured in blood. This ridge, this spine, was just another test, but perhaps the hardest yet. Jace signaled forward. The team moved with a fluid grace, each member stepping lightly over rocks, balancing on uneven ground, rifles raised, eyes scanning. The wind carried faint noises. A bird startled, the scrape of stone against stone, the whisper of the distant river. Every sound was magnified in the tense silence. Jace felt the familiar tightening in his chest, not fear, but the acute awareness that they were about to enter a crucible. The SEALs had trained for months for this insertion. They had studied intelligence reports, memorized maps, traced every possible enemy route, and rehearsed every potential encounter. And yet, Jace knew that reality rarely followed the plan. The Ghost Sniper, as reports had ominously named him, was known for appearing where he shouldn't, striking when least expected, and vanishing before retaliation could even begin. The term ghost was not an exaggeration. It was a reputation earned in blood. As they climbed higher, the air grew thinner. Each breath burned, each step demanded focus. Sweat mixed with the cold mist on their faces. Hawk's boots slipped slightly on loose stone, but Viper's hand was on his shoulder instantly, steadying him without words. The ridge was teaching them humility. Every moment demanded alertness. Every misstep punished with a reminder that death was close at hand. They paused on a narrow ledge, overlooking a valley choked with fog. The sun, climbing higher, sent shards of gold across jagged rocks. In that fleeting light, the mountains appeared both beautiful and malevolent. Jace allowed himself a moment to appreciate the stark contrast. Life and death, serenity and violence, all intertwined in these peaks. But he dismissed it quickly. There was no time for admiration. The mission demanded focus. The Ghost Sniper was patient. They could not afford to be caught admiring the scenery. Jace signaled the team to spread out, covering angles, checking sectors. Radios were silent. Communication was by hand signals alone. The tension was palpable, a living thing that wrapped around each man, reminding them that this was not a drill. They moved like shadows, silently, cautiously, yet every movement radiated purpose and confidence. The calm before the storm was not peaceful, it was anticipation, a taut thread stretched to its limit. Suddenly, a distant sound made them all freeze. A branch snapped, faint but deliberate. The team's heads swiveled in unison, eyes scanning the ridge. Hawk's pulse quickened. Could it be the Ghost Sniper? Or merely a deer? Jace's mind raced, analyzing angles, trajectories, possibilities. There was no room for doubt. Instinct had to guide them as much as training. Every soldier's heartbeat became audible only to themselves, a personal drum in the symphony of tension. Minutes stretched like hours. The sun climbed higher, cutting through fog, revealing jagged rocks and deep crevices. Every shadow seemed alive, every shift in mist a potential threat. Jace adjusted his grip on his rifle, feeling the familiar weight, the cold comfort of steel in his hands. He glanced at Hawk and Viper, both ready, both aware of the fine line they walked between vigilance and panic. As they advanced along the ridge, a sudden movement caught Jace's eye. A flicker of shadow, high on the rocks. He froze, holding up a hand. The team stopped instantly. Silence fell heavier than before. The Ghost Sniper had a reputation for appearing without warning, and Jace knew that now, in the light of early dawn, the risk of detection was higher. Yet the ridge demanded progress. They could not wait forever. The SEALs pressed on, each step deliberate, each glance measured. The ridge stretched before them, a test of nerves, skill, and courage. Mist curled around rocks like a living thing, hiding potential danger, masking movement. Jace's mind ran through contingencies, escape routes, and attack plans, but he knew that nothing could fully prepare them for what lay ahead. Every mission, every enemy was different. Every ridge, a challenge. And somewhere up ahead, the ghost sniper waited. The calm before the storm had ended. Every muscle, every nerve, every heartbeat was ready. The mountain watched in silence, and the SEALs moved forward, unaware that the first echoes of gunfire were about to shatter that silence forever. Weeks before the team set foot on the spine, the briefing room had been silent, except for the hum of the projector and the occasional scratch of a pen on paper. Commander Jace Lawson sat at the head of the long metal table, reviewing the intelligence dossier one last time. Maps spread across the table showed the jagged mountain range in painstaking detail. Elevation contours, cliff faces, riverbeds, and suspected enemy positions. On top of it all, a single notation had been circled in red: Ghost Sniper, Extreme Threat. The room smelled faintly of coffee and anticipation. Around him, the SEAL team absorbed the details. Every man knew the stakes. Failure wasn't just a report. It was death for innocents, chaos for civilians, and potentially an international incident. Lawson's eyes swept across the team. Viper, Hawk, and the rest, veterans and rookies alike, each with their own reason for being here, each with their own past missions, scars, and nightmares. "Here's the situation," Jace began, his voice calm but firm. "We've identified the target, a high-value operative coordinating attacks from deep in these mountains. Our intel suggests he's armed, mobile, and extremely well-trained. There's an individual among his forces, possibly more than one known, only as the Ghost Sniper. Witnesses describe shots fired from impossible angles, precise and deadly. He has never been captured. He leaves no trace. The terrain favors him. If we're not careful, this mission will be over before it begins." A hush fell over the room. A Ghost Sniper wasn't a myth. His reputation was built on confirmed kills, civilians caught in crossfire, and soldiers who had vanished without a trace. Some of the team had heard stories and whispers accounts from veterans who survived engagements, only to describe the sniper as a ghost, a shadow that moved faster than human perception, appearing and disappearing at will. Jace clicked the projector, revealing satellite imagery of the spine and the surrounding valley. "Insertion will be at 0300 hours, he said. "We'll approach under darkness, descending from the ridge to the target's suspected location. The approach is narrow, and detection is likely. We have to move silently, stay dispersed, and maintain visual on each other at all times. Comms will be minimal. Hand signals will be primary. If the Ghost Sniper engages, we adapt. He is patient. We have to be quicker." Hawk shifted in his seat, studying the images on the screen. The terrain was brutal. Steep cliffs, hidden crevices, and jagged boulders scattered across the mountainside. He had trained in rugged conditions before, but this was different. Every shadow could conceal a rifle barrel. Every ridge could hide a sniper. His heart pounded in anticipation, not fear, but adrenaline sharp and precise, like a blade ready to strike. Viper, sitting across from Hawk, leaned in and studied the elevations and angles. He traced a potential approach path with his finger. "We'll need to account for line-of-sight changes as we descend," he said quietly. "Even a single misstep could expose us to fire from above. He knows these mountains. He's invisible for a reason." Jace nodded, his mind already running through contingencies. "Exactly. We'll split into 2 teams initially. Team Alpha takes the western ridge, Team Bravo the eastern flank. Once we converge near the river, we push forward together. Hawk, you're with Alpha. Viper, you cover Bravo. Everyone else knows their sectors. Remember, patience, observation, communication. Fire only when necessary. If the Ghost Sniper appears, prioritize survival and extraction over engagement. Understood?" Understood, came the chorus of voices, crisp and disciplined. The briefing continued for hours. Jace and the team studied maps, memorized routes, and discussed enemy tactics. They reviewed previous intel on the ghost sniper, reports of soldiers pinned by a single shot from unseen heights, escape routes that led into ambushes, and the sniper's rumored ability to anticipate standard military maneuvers. Every statistic, every anecdote, added weight to the mission. It wasn't just an assignment. It was a test of experience, intuition, and nerves. After reviewing the intelligence, Jace turned the focus to the team themselves. We've trained together. We know each other's patterns. That's our edge. The ghost sniper has skill, but he doesn't have our cohesion. Watch each other's backs. Trust instincts. Watch the ridge. Watch yourselves. One mistake is all it takes. Survival isn't guaranteed. But we move together. We fight together. We survive together. The men absorbed the words, letting them settle. Each of them thought of past missions, friends lost, moments where split-second decisions had meant life or death. The ghost sniper was real, a force they had never faced, but the team's experience, training, and unity were formidable weapons. The briefing ended with a review of gear and weapons. Rifles were checked, silencers attached, scopes calibrated, ammunition accounted for. Every SEAL inspected his team member's loadout, ensuring nothing was overlooked. Jace moved down the line, adjusting straps, tapping shoulders, whispering encouragements. Stay sharp. Trust your instincts. We do this clean. We do this fast. And we come back together. The night before the mission, sleep was scarce. The men rested in shifts, trying to conserve energy for the descent at dawn. In the quiet moments, thoughts drifted. Hawk remembered his family, wondering if he'd ever see them again. Viper reflected on past missions, remembering friends who hadn't returned. Jace lay awake, reviewing every possible scenario, every tactical advantage, every risk. Sleep came in short, shallow bursts, dreams haunted by shadows and impossible shots. Finally, the moment arrived. Darkness covered the mountains like a velvet blanket. Helicopters hovered silently, their rotors muffled by the canyon walls, as Team Alpha and Team Bravo prepared to insert onto the ridge. The men checked weapons one last time, adjusted harnesses, and exchanged nods. No words were spoken. There was no need. Years of shared experience allowed them to communicate in silence. The calm before action was palpable, thick in the air, almost suffocating. Jace led the first descent. The ridge stretched below them, a labyrinth of jagged rock and concealed dangers. Every instinct screamed vigilance. Every shadow seemed alive. Hawk's pulse raced as adrenaline sharpened his senses. He moved with deliberate precision, trusting his training, trusting his team, trusting Jace's leadership. The first steps onto the spine were cautious. The men moved like shadows, rifles raised, eyes scanning, ears straining for the slightest hint of movement. The mountains were alive with silence, the calm before the storm that was sure to come. And somewhere, hidden from view, the ghost sniper waited. The intelligence had been clear, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of the spine, the sheer unpredictability of the terrain, the psychological weight of the mission, and the knowledge that an unseen killer could strike at any moment. Every crack of stone underfoot, every whisper of wind through crevices was amplified in their awareness. The mountains were testing them even before the first shot was fired. As dawn approached, the team reached the first observation point, crouched low behind boulders, scanning the ridges and valleys for movement. Jace allowed himself a brief nod to the team, a silent affirmation that they were ready. They had trained for this moment. They had planned for every scenario. But the ghost sniper wasn't just another enemy. He was a legend, a phantom, a force that turned the spine into a deadly chessboard. Jace's final thought as they moved forward, the calm before the storm ends here. Every heartbeat, every movement, every decision from this point is life or death. Night had fully claimed the mountains. Darkness draped over the jagged ridges like a velvet curtain, muffling sound and masking movement. Helicopters hovered low, their blades slicing the air with a near-silent hum, carrying the SEAL teams toward the spine. Commander Jace Lawson's heart beat steadily, not from fear, but from focus. Every member of his team mirrored his concentration, rifles ready, eyes scanning the blackened terrain below. They had trained for countless scenarios, yet the reality of moving into the unknown, with the ghost sniper possibly watching, was an entirely different challenge. The first insertion was delicate. The SEALs rappelled from the helicopters, boots finding purchase on narrow ledges, harnesses groaning under strain. One misstep could send a man tumbling into the shadows below, and no one could afford that risk. The wind howled around them, carrying dust, loose stone, and the faint scent of pine resin. Every movement required deliberate precision. Even the slightest sound could betray their presence. Alpha Team, secure the west ridge. Bravo, cover the eastern flank, Jace whispered, barely moving his lips. The SEALs understood instantly, splitting into teams like shadows melting into the night. Hawk's boots landed softly on the rocky ledge, his breath steady despite the pounding of his pulse. He was hyper-aware of every creak of stone beneath him, every rustle of the mist around the rocks. Viper adjusted his night vision goggles, scanning the eastern approach. "I've got movement," he whispered back to Jace. It was subtle, just a flicker in the corner of his eye, a shadow that didn't belong. Jace nodded, signaling the team to halt and take cover. The ghost sniper was patient. Every muscle in their bodies tightened as they waited, listening for any hint of threat. Minutes passed in tense silence. The team's training kicked in. They moved like one organism, silent and precise. Communication was almost entirely nonverbal. A nod, a flick of the wrist, a subtle change in stance. The mountains themselves seemed alive, every ridge, rock, and tree a potential hiding place for death. Hawk's mind raced, imagining every angle, every possibility, trying to anticipate what the sniper might do next. Suddenly, the sound came a faint crack of rock underfoot, easily mistaken for shifting stone in the darkness. But Jace froze, instinct screaming danger. "Hold," he whispered, voice barely audible. The team obeyed instantly, flattening themselves against boulders, rifles raised. From above, somewhere along the ridge, a single shot rang out, precise and terrifying in its suddenness. A bullet struck a rock mere inches from Viper's head, sending fragments scattering. The ghost sniper had revealed himself. Adrenaline surged through every SEAL. Reflexes honed over years of training took over. Hawk rolled to the side, returning fire instinctively, scanning the ridge for any sign of the enemy. Bullets cut the air around them, striking stone and earth with metallic clinks. Shadows danced violently across the mountainside. The ghost sniper was no myth. He was a living, breathing nightmare, striking from angles that defied logic. Jace assessed the situation quickly. Move in pairs. Suppress fire if he engages. Flank left. The SEALs responded like extensions of his command, darting from cover to cover, merging precision with instinct. Hawk found temporary refuge behind a boulder, heart hammering, trying to track the elusive sniper's position. Each shot the ghost sniper fired seemed to anticipate their movements, as though he could read the team's intentions before they acted. The mountains echoed with the sound of gunfire and rock shattering. The SEALs advanced cautiously, using every crevice, every shadow, every natural cover to their advantage. Hawk caught a fleeting glimpse of a silhouette on a distant outcrop tall, steady, impossibly precise. The sniper fired again, and the impact shook the earth nearby, a stark reminder that the enemy was both deadly and patient. Viper signaled from the eastern ridge. "He's repositioning," he said quietly. Jace nodded, understanding the significance. The ghost sniper wasn't reckless. He was deliberate, observing, waiting for the perfect opportunity. Every SEAL had to anticipate his moves while maintaining cohesion with the team. Every misstep could be fatal. They moved as one, suppressing instinctive fear, relying on muscle memory and training. Hawk's thoughts flashed briefly to home his sister's smile, his father's advice, but there was no room for distraction. Survival, precision, teamwork, these were the only constants. The ghost sniper's presence made time slow. Every second was stretched into an eternity, every sound magnified. As they advanced further, the first signs of enemy fortifications appeared. Shallow trenches, camouflaged positions, tripwires glinting in the faint moonlight. The ghost sniper had allies, or at least traps, making every step treacherous. Jace adjusted the approach, whispering commands, moving with the confidence of a man who had seen worse, yet never anything like this. A sudden burst of fire forced the team to hit the ground. Hawk's rifle cracked in response, tracer rounds illuminating the night briefly before disappearing into darkness. The ghost sniper had struck again, almost invisible, leaving the SEALs to navigate chaos. Yet the team moved forward, undeterred, combining strategy with survival instinct. Every member covered another, watching angles, moving in perfect coordination. Hours seemed to pass in minutes as they made slow progress. The mountain's silence had vanished, replaced by the rhythm of gunfire, shouted commands, and the tense communication of a team tested to its limits. Hawk noticed something peculiar. The sniper seemed to anticipate even the most unpredictable movements, firing not at exposed SEALs, but at where he believed they would move next. It was as if he were reading their minds. Jace's voice cut through the tension. "Hold, regroup, assess." The team gathered briefly behind a natural rock wall, breathing heavily but focused. They scanned the ridges, counting angles, tracking movement. Hawk could feel sweat running down his temples, yet his hands remained steady. They were alive, and more importantly, they were cohesive. The ghost sniper had forced them to adapt, but he had also revealed something crucial. He was human, and with strategy, patience, and coordination, he could be confronted. From this temporary safety, Jace surveyed the battlefield. The ridge was more treacherous than expected. Any direct assault was suicide. The ghost sniper had the high ground, clear lines of fire, and knowledge of every natural concealment. Yet, the SEALs had trained for precisely this, the impossible. Their edge was teamwork, experience, and the ability to operate under pressure without hesitation. The first real engagement had taught them more than hours of simulation ever could. Every step forward demanded attention, every glance a calculation, every heartbeat a reminder of mortality. Hawk realized that fear was not weakness, it was fuel. It sharpened awareness, focused thought, and demanded excellence. Each member of the team felt the same, moving with purpose, discipline, and unity. As the night deepened, the mountains seemed to close in. Mist curled around rocks, turning every boulder into a potential threat. The ghost sniper struck sporadically, keeping the SEALs off balance, forcing improvisation. Yet they advanced. The spine was formidable, but the team was resilient. They learned to anticipate, adapt, and survive, step by cautious step. By the first light of dawn, the SEALs had gained ground, securing a precarious ridge overlooking the valley where their target was suspected to be. They paused to catch their breath, scan the terrain, and regroup. Hawk, Viper, and the others had faced the ghost sniper's first engagement and survived. But Jace knew the real test was yet to come. The ghost sniper had merely announced himself, and the calm before the storm was ending. Every member understood the unspoken truth. This mission was not only a test of skill, but of nerve, discipline, and unity. And somewhere on the ridge above, waiting, watching, the ghost sniper prepared to strike again. The spine had become a labyrinth of shadows and stone. Dawn's light barely penetrated the fog, casting ghostly shapes across jagged rocks. The SEAL team advanced cautiously, alert to every movement, every whisper of wind. Commander Jace Lawson led the way, scanning angles, anticipating traps, his mind a constant calculation of risk versus necessity. Hawk's pulse remained high. Every rustle of stone, every snap of a twig sent adrenaline coursing through his veins. Then it happened. From above, a single shot tore through the air, striking a boulder mere inches from Viper's head. The SEALs hit the ground instantly, rifles raised, eyes wide. The ghost sniper had struck, revealing the terrifying precision that had earned his legendary reputation. There was no panic would mean death, but an acute awareness, every nerve coiled and ready. "It's over," Jace muttered under his breath, the words a reflexive acknowledgement of danger, not defeat. But instinct screamed that it wasn't over not, while the team still moved as one. The ghost sniper wasn't reckless. He didn't chase. He waited, luring targets into disadvantage. Every shot he fired was calculated, precise, meant to instill fear, disorientation, and hesitation. The SEALs dispersed, flattening themselves against boulders, using natural cover as shields. Hawk's hands were steady despite his heart hammering in his chest. The ghost sniper was everywhere and nowhere, striking from angles that defied expectation. Each bullet seemed to anticipate their moves, forcing them to think faster, act smarter, and trust each other implicitly. Viper's voice cut softly through hand signals and gestures. Flank left. Suppressive fire. Move slow, deliberate. The team responded instantly, a choreography of trained precision, rifles cracking in bursts, sending flashes of light into the misty morning. Shadows danced across the rocks, bullets ricocheted, and dust spiraled around them in turbulent clouds. Every second was amplified, every heartbeat measured in life or death. The ghost sniper fired again, and Hawk felt the shockwave from a round striking mere inches from his arm. He rolled behind a jagged boulder, returning fire instinctively, scanning the ridge for the enemy. The sniper's patience was maddening. Each SEAL had to maintain perfect discipline, suppressing instinctual panic, even as the mountains themselves seemed to conspire against them. Jace assessed their positions quickly. The team was cornered, the ridge narrow, the mountains above providing lethal vantage points. But he didn't falter. Form a line. Cover each other. Don't expose yourself unnecessarily. We adapt, he whispered. His calm voice cut through the tension, a lifeline in the chaos. Every SEAL trusted him implicitly. His presence grounded them, even as the sniper's bullets tore the earth around them. The ghost sniper's method became clear. He wasn't rushing the attack. He was orchestrating it. Each shot was meant to corral the team, force them into predictable patterns, and test their cohesion. Hawk realized the magnitude of the challenge. The sniper wasn't just a marksman. He was a tactician, an artist of fear and precision. Minutes stretched into eternity. Every movement required thought, calculation, and synchronicity. Hawk and Viper covered each other, while Chase and the other SEALs pushed forward, using the terrain to their advantage. A boulder here, a ridge there, every natural formation became a tool for survival. Communication was minimal glances, gestures, and instinctive understanding guided every action. Then came a misstep. A loose stone shifted under Hawk's boot, tumbling down the ridge and clattering against rocks below. The sound echoed, and immediately, a round struck the ground beside him, throwing dirt and gravel into the air. The ghost sniper had been watching, predicting their every move, waiting for a moment of imperfection. Hawk's breath caught in his throat, but he forced himself to move, rolling behind cover and rejoining the defensive formation. The SEALs returned fire cautiously, targeting probable locations, but every shot required deliberation. A sniper's concealment was flawless. Even in daylight, the mist and jagged rocks provided perfect cover. Every echo of a bullet hitting stone reminded them of the lethal precision they faced. Viper fired a calculated shot, aiming for a protruding rock where the sniper might be positioned. The crack of his rifle was answered by silence, no return fire. The sniper had moved again, as if dissolving into the mountain itself. Jace knew they had to change tactics. A direct assault was suicide. They needed ingenuity, patience, and coordination. Split and advance. Use staggered movement. Cover angles. Watch each other's backs. Eyes up, he ordered. The SEALs moved with careful precision, trusting each other, anticipating the sniper's strikes, using every instinct honed over years of training. Hawk's mind raced as he assessed the ridge. Every shadow could conceal death. Every ridge could hide another sniper, another trap. But his fear had sharpened his senses. He watched, calculated, moved, all while maintaining perfect synchronization with his teammates. The ghost sniper had tested their nerves, forced them into defensive positions, and yet the team was adapting, learning, surviving. Hours passed like minutes. The ridge, once a silent expanse, had become a battlefield of calculated chaos. Gunfire rang out in bursts, bullets struck rocks, and the mist turned every shape into a potential threat. Hawk's muscles ached from holding position. His eyes strained from scanning every angle, but there was no hesitation, no faltering. Every SEAL's focus was absolute. Then, a sudden movement caught Chase's eye, a shadow high on the ridge, briefly illuminated by a sunbeam cutting through the mist. The sniper was there, observing, calculating. Jace signaled a temporary halt. The team froze instantly, rifles trained, breathing steady despite the tension that hung thick in the air. Hawk's mind was razor-sharp, cataloging angles, estimating distances, planning the next movement. The ghost sniper had forced them to think in ways no simulation could replicate. The team moved again, cautiously, deliberately. Each step was calculated, each shift of weight considered. They flanked left, then right, using terrain as cover, while Viper and Hawk provided suppressive fire. The sniper fired sporadically, forcing movement, testing their reflexes, keeping them alert. Jace observed everything, calculating patterns, noting weaknesses, and preparing for the counterattack. The ghost sniper had turned the ridge into a deadly game of chess. Each SEAL was a piece, moving with precision, coordinating silently, reacting instinctively. The sniper's unpredictability and skill had forced them to adapt quickly, testing not only their marksmanship, but their cohesion and mental endurance. Hawk realized that survival required more than bullets. It demanded strategy, patience, and trust in each other. By midday, the SEALs had maneuvered into a temporary defensive position, using a boulder-strewn outcrop as cover. They regrouped, catching their breath, scanning the ridge, and preparing for the next phase. Every bullet fired, every movement made had been a lesson in patience, precision, and the terrifying reality of facing an unseen, calculating enemy. Jace allowed himself a brief nod to the team. We've weathered the first engagement. He's strong, patient, and skilled. But he's human. Stay sharp, adapt, and keep moving. The ridge isn't done with us, and neither are we with it. The SEALs exchanged silent acknowledgments, their resolve hardened by the trial. The ghost sniper had tested their limits. The SEALs had survived. But the battle was far from over. The mountains remained alive with danger, every shadow a potential threat, every ridge a potential ambush. And somewhere above, hidden and patient, the sniper waited, ready to strike again. The ridge remained cloaked in mist, but the tension was tangible, wrapping the SEAL team in a tight, suffocating grip. Commander Jace Lawson crouched behind a jagged boulder, scanning the rocky terrain above. The ghost sniper had already tested them, striking from impossible angles, disappearing into shadows as if he were a phantom. Every SEAL's nerves were taut, muscles coiled, eyes darting across the fog-shrouded ridge. The mountains themselves seemed alive, each shadow hiding potential death. Hawk adjusted his rifle, scanning the ridge for the faintest movement. Every instinct screamed danger. Every second was a calculation. Then, a subtle shift against a distant rock outcrop caught his eye. Hawk froze. There it was, a silhouette, briefly outlined by a thin beam of sunlight piercing the mist. The ghost sniper had revealed himself, if only for a heartbeat. The team reacted instantly, rifles trained, fingers steady on triggers. Yet, the sniper didn't fire immediately. He observed, calculating, waiting for a reaction. Jace whispered hand signals, directing the team into coordinated positions, each SEAL covering another. The sniper's patience was maddening, but it was also their opportunity. Exposure, no matter how brief, meant they could plan, adapt, and strike. Hawk exhaled slowly, suppressing the rush of adrenaline. The sniper fired suddenly, a bullet striking a boulder mere inches from Viper. The SEALs responded with precision, exchanging fire in measured bursts, aiming not to panic, but to probe, to find weakness. The ghost sniper moved like a shadow, dissolving into rock, vanishing, then reappearing at a new angle, each shot unnervingly accurate. Jace studied the enemy carefully. The ghost sniper wasn't just a marksman. He was a tactician. Every movement was deliberate, every strike designed to control the battlefield, to dictate their actions. But he was human. He had patterns, vulnerabilities, and limits. If they could identify them, they could counter. Suppressive fire. Flank left. Watch your sectors. Jace commanded through hand signals. Alpha and Bravo teams responded seamlessly. Bullets cracked, ricocheted, and cut through the mist, forcing the sniper into a temporary cover. Hawk moved with deliberate precision, keeping the silhouette in sight, analyzing the position, noting shadows, angles, and potential escape routes. Viper's voice whispered from a rock behind him. He's repositioning. Wait for the opening. Don't give him a predictable target. Jace nodded subtly. The ghost sniper had forced them to improvise, adapt, and coordinate like never before. Every SEAL relied on the others, anticipating movements, watching for angles, maintaining focus despite fatigue and fear. The sniper fired again, and a bullet struck near Hawk, kicking up gravel in a sharp spray. Hawk rolled to cover, returning fire carefully, targeting the rock formation where the shadow had briefly appeared. Each shot was calculated, measured, forcing the sniper to retreat slightly, testing his response, probing for patterns. Jace considered options. Direct assault was too dangerous. The sniper had the high ground and a perfect vantage point. They needed to manipulate him into a position where he could be neutralized without unnecessary exposure. Every movement, every shot, every gesture was part of a deadly chess game. Hawk understood the magnitude of what they were doing. Precision and patience were the only weapons against this ghost. Hours passed in tense silence, punctuated by sporadic gunfire. The ghost sniper struck intermittently, each shot forcing a reaction, testing their nerves. Hawk could feel sweat on his brow, muscles aching from crouching and scanning. Yet he and his teammates were disciplined. Panic had no place here. Each SEAL relied on training, instinct, and the cohesion of the unit. Jace whispered hand signals, guiding Hawk and Viper toward a better vantage point. Move carefully. Eyes up. Anticipate. Hawk inched along the ridge, muscles taut, eyes flicking between shadows and rocks. He felt the sniper's presence like a weight, heavy and invisible, controlling the battlefield with fear and accuracy. Then, as if the mountain itself decided to reveal a secret, the sniper moved into a slight clearing on a high ledge. Hawk's breath caught. The ghost sniper was fully visible now. A tall figure, rifle gleaming, movements precise and deliberate. Time seemed to stretch as the SEALs assessed the threat, absorbing every detail, posture, angle, concealment. The sniper fired again. This time, the SEALs returned coordinated suppressive fire. Hawk felt the rifle's recoil as he fired in short bursts, each shot carefully aimed. The ghost sniper ducked behind a boulder, disappearing briefly, then reappeared further along the ridge, eyes scanning, calculating. The game had escalated. No longer merely a test of patience. It had become a battle of skill, strategy, and nerves. Viper shifted, providing cover while Hawk advanced slightly. "He's human," Viper muttered quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Human can be outsmarted. The words were a reminder to Hawk. Fear was natural, but skill, observation, and teamwork could overcome even the deadliest opponent. Jace gestured subtly to the team. "Flank and pressure him. Don't rush. Watch angles. Force him to react." The SEALs moved like shadows, rifles raised, suppressive fire forcing the sniper into a less advantageous position. Hawk's pulse raced. Every movement required thought, calculation, and nerve. The sniper was skilled, but the SEALs were disciplined, coordinated, and relentless. Minutes of maneuvering passed. The sniper fired sporadically, but the SEALs adapted, maintaining cover, moving with precision, coordinating every step. Hawk found himself only a few yards from the high ridge where the sniper had been briefly exposed. He inhaled slowly, suppressing adrenaline, analyzing angles, and preparing for the next move. Then came a breakthrough. Jace had identified a pattern. The ghost sniper preferred high ground with partial cover, striking, observing, and moving predictably to another outcrop. Hawk signaled Viper, pointing to a concealed path that could allow them to approach without direct exposure. Jace nodded, silently approving the maneuver. This was their opening. The team advanced cautiously. Every step was deliberate, every glance measured. The mountains seemed alive with anticipation. Hawk's senses were heightened. Wind direction, light angles, shadows, and the faintest sounds of movement guided every decision. The sniper fired again, but this time the SEALs were ready, reacting instinctively, advancing as one. Finally, the ghost sniper was fully visible, silhouetted against a rock outcrop. Hawk held his breath, aiming carefully. Jace signaled for coordinated fire. The SEALs fired in precise succession, bullets hitting the ridge, forcing the sniper to shift. The battle had reached its peak. Skill, patience, and nerve tested to the limit. The sniper fired back, but the coordinated pressure, constant movement, and teamwork of the SEALs had begun to dictate the engagement. Hawk felt a surge of controlled adrenaline. The ghost sniper was still deadly, still calculating, but the tide was slowly turning. The team's adaptation, observation, and precision had begun to counter the ghostly advantage of concealment and patience. Hours of cat and mouse had led to this. The ghost sniper was exposed, forced to react, and the SEALs were ready. Hawk's finger tightened on the trigger, muscles coiled, eyes locked. Every SEAL understood the stakes. Perfection was required. One misstep, one premature shot, and the opportunity would vanish. But together, coordinated, disciplined, they were close to forcing the impossible, confronting the ghost. The ridge held its breath, the mountain's silent witnesses to the deadly dance. The ghost sniper had revealed himself. The SEALs had adapted, survived, and now, with patience and precision, they were ready to take the next step, the counterattack. The ghost sniper had revealed himself, even if only briefly, and the SEALs knew the moment of advantage had come. Commander Jace Lawson crouched low behind a jagged boulder, eyes scanning the ridge above. Every instinct screamed that this was the time to act, but action had to be precise. Every SEAL knew that one mistake could turn strategy into tragedy. Suppressive fire. Jace signaled sharply with his hand. Bullets cracked into the ridge, ricocheting off rocks and scattering debris. Dust and mist swirled, momentarily obscuring the sniper's view. Hawk and Viper fired in controlled bursts, forcing the enemy to shift and exposing small windows of vulnerability. The sniper's patience faltered slightly. The constant pressure was beginning to erode his rhythm. The SEALs had prepared for this. Improvisation would be their key. Every natural formation boulder, ridge, outcrop became a tool, a shield, or a trap. Hawk advanced carefully, using shadows and terrain to mask his movement, rifle ready. He felt every heartbeat, every gust of wind, every subtle change in light, knowing that each could reveal them. The sniper's advantage was now partially mitigated by their ingenuity and relentless pressure. Jace whispered hand signals, coordinating the team silently. Alpha flank left. Bravo maintained suppressive fire. Force him to retreat to lower ground. The team moved seamlessly, each SEAL covering another, advancing like shadows across the jagged landscape. Every footstep, every glance, every angle was deliberate. Hawk's mind was razor-sharp, analyzing the sniper's position, movements, and potential escape routes. The sniper fired sporadically, bullets tearing the air, striking rocks dangerously close. Hawk and Viper ducked behind a boulder, returning fire in short, controlled bursts. Each shot calculated to keep the enemy pinned while maintaining cover. Jace advanced slightly, eyes scanning, signaling subtle movements to the team. The sniper was skilled, but under relentless coordinated pressure, even the ghost was forced into compromise. Minutes passed like hours. The mountains echoed with the intermittent roar of gunfire and the shattering of rock. Hawk could feel his muscles burning, eyes straining from scanning the misty ridge, but training and adrenaline propelled him forward. Every movement was deliberate, every reaction instinctive. The SEALs had adapted to the sniper's rhythm, anticipating, probing, and countering. Jace's tactical mind identified a key advantage, the sniper's predictable pattern of repositioning. Hawk noticed it too. The ghost moved only along certain ledges, always partially covered, always calculating escape routes. Jace signaled a subtle maneuver. "Set up a trap," he whispered. Hawk and Viper understood immediately. Coordinated fire, careful movement, and a bit of improvisation could force the sniper into a position where he could be neutralized. The SEALs executed flawlessly. Alpha moved along the western ridge, drawing the sniper's attention. Bravo maintained suppressive fire, forcing him to shift continuously. The mountains, once dominated by fear, were now a chessboard. Hawk's pulse raced with anticipation as he approached a narrow ledge that could serve as a cutoff. The sniper's position became increasingly vulnerable, trapped by the SEAL's clever coordination and relentless pressure. Then came the moment of opportunity. The ghost sniper, exposed momentarily while shifting to a new outcrop, was visible for a split second. Hawk exhaled slowly, controlling his adrenaline, fingers steady on the trigger. Viper covered his flank, eyes scanning for secondary threats. Every detail mattered: wind, distance, angle, light, and timing. The sniper was skilled, but the SEALs had outmaneuvered him. Jace signaled the team. "Now, coordinate." A chorus of short, precise bursts erupted. The sniper ducked, narrowly avoiding incoming fire, but his cover was compromised. The SEALs had forced him into a defensive position, using ingenuity, strategy, and relentless coordination. Hawk's heart pounded not from fear, but from controlled focus. They were pushing the ghost into a corner, using intellect and teamwork as their weapons. The sniper fired back, but the coordinated counterattack prevented effective targeting. Every SEAL covered another, movements synchronized, suppressive fire precise, positioning deliberate. Hawk advanced along the ridge, carefully maintaining concealment while closing the distance. Every step required patience, calculation, and nerve. The mountains themselves seemed to watch, the mist swirling as if acknowledging the deadly game unfolding. Jace observed the sniper's pattern with cold precision. He noted weaknesses, the slight delay when changing position, the brief moment of exposure while scanning for threats, and the limitations imposed by terrain. The SEALs exploited these with subtlety, forcing the sniper into an ever-tightening trap. Hawk's mind was a whirl of observation, calculation, and disciplined execution. Finally, the sniper fired a round that struck close enough to throw dust into Hawk's face. Hawk rolled behind a boulder, suppressing his breath. This was the ghost in full force, precision, patience, and cunning. But now he was reacting, forced to consider the SEAL's ingenuity. Hawk signaled Viper and Jace. The trap was ready. The sniper's movement options were limited. The SEALs advanced together, using staggered positions to maintain suppressive fire while closing distance. Hawk approached the critical ledge, heart steady, eyes locked. Every movement was rehearsed, every shot measured. The ghost sniper had dominated the battlefield until now, but the relentless ingenuity of the SEALs had begun to shift the advantage. Minutes stretched as the sniper attempted to retreat to an alternate ledge, only to find it covered by Bravo team fire. Hawk and Viper adjusted instantly, cutting off escape routes. The mountains echoed with the tension of a predator, cornered, and the precision of hunters. The sniper was forced into a small clearing, exposed and struggling to find adequate cover. The SEALs had used ingenuity and coordination to manipulate the battlefield itself into an ally. Jace allowed a brief nod, subtle, quiet, but full of significance. The counterattack was working. Hawk advanced slightly, suppressive fire keeping the sniper pinned. Viper moved to flank, covering angles, eyes sharp, muscles coiled. The sniper fired sporadically, but the SEALs maintained pressure, forcing him to expend energy, movement, and focus. Every step, every shot, was designed to create an opening. Then, a moment of brilliance. Jace signaled Hawk to shift slightly, using a boulder as a pivot, drawing the sniper's attention. Viper maintained suppressive fire from a different angle, while Alpha Team coordinated to close off the high ground. The ghost sniper had been forced to react for the first time in hours. His patience challenged, his advantage diminished. Hawk felt a surge of controlled adrenaline. The sniper fired one last round before ducking behind cover, but the SEAL's pressure was unrelenting. Jace signaled to maintain suppressive fire while closing distance. Hawk moved cautiously, eyes locked on the enemy's position. Every muscle, every nerve, every ounce of training was focused on a single goal: to keep the advantage, maintain coordination, and force the ghost into the final confrontation. The ridge was no longer dominated by fear. It was dominated by strategy, coordination, and relentless ingenuity. The ghost sniper's reputation was legendary, but the SEAL's adaptability, teamwork, and discipline had begun to dictate the battlefield. Hawk realized they were on the precipice of turning the tide. Jace allowed a quiet, controlled breath. The sniper was human, vulnerable, and exposed. The SEALs had used ingenuity, strategy, and coordinated fire to manipulate the enemy's movements, forcing him into disadvantageous positions. The first true advantage had been gained. The counterattack had succeeded in turning the impossible into a calculated opportunity. Now, only one challenge remained: closing the distance, maintaining coordination, and preparing for the final confrontation that would determine who controlled the spine. Hawk's heart raced, not from fear, but from focus, anticipation, and the intensity of being on the verge of victory. The ghost sniper had been pushed to the edge, and the SEALs were ready to capitalize. The ghost sniper had been forced into a vulnerable position. The SEAL team, moving with precision and coordination, had dictated the battlefield for the first time since the engagement began. Commander Jace Lawson crouched low, scanning the ridge for any movement, any sign that the sniper might attempt a desperate maneuver. Every second was critical. Every decision could mean life or death. Hawk's pulse was steady, controlled, each breath measured as he tracked the ghostly figure hiding behind a jagged boulder. The sniper had fired sporadically throughout the morning, each shot forcing the SEALs to adapt and respond. But now, under coordinated pressure, he was exposed. His legendary patience and precision were being tested. Hawk and Viper shifted cautiously, maintaining suppressive fire, cutting off escape routes. Jace signaled subtly hand gestures, glances, and minimal movement directing the team, like a conductor leading a deadly symphony. "Flank left. Keep him pinned," Jace whispered. Hawk obeyed, moving slowly along a narrow ledge, eyes locked on the sniper. Every instinct was focused, every nerve coiled, muscles tense. The ghost sniper fired once, then ducked behind cover again, revealing just enough of his silhouette for the SEALs to track movement patterns. The moment had come. Patience was required, but now was the time to act. Viper provided covering fire from a separate ridge, strategically targeting exposed rocks to prevent the sniper from repositioning. Hawk inched forward, carefully calculating distance, angle, and wind. Every movement was deliberate, designed to force the sniper into the final confrontation. Jace's eyes flicked between the men, silently coordinating, ensuring each sector was covered, every angle monitored. The sniper fired again, a shot narrowly missing Hawk's shoulder. Dust and gravel erupted around him, a harsh reminder that the enemy was still deadly. Hawk rolled behind a boulder, exhaling slowly, suppressing adrenaline. He knew one mistake could end everything, but he also knew that the sniper was human and vulnerable when under constant pressure. This was the SEAL's opportunity to finish the engagement. Jace signaled for a coordinated approach. Alpha Team advanced along the western ledge, drawing the sniper's attention, while Bravo maintained suppressive fire from another angle. Hawk and Viper moved together, closing the distance, using shadows and natural cover to mask their presence. Every step was calculated, every glance measured. The sniper was skilled, but the SEAL's discipline, adaptability, and ingenuity had begun to dominate the battle. The ghost sniper appeared briefly on the edge of a rocky outcrop, scanning for threats. Hawk froze, heart pounding, rifle steady. Viper's suppressive fire forced the sniper to shift slightly, exposing his position. Jace nodded imperceptibly. This was the opening they had been waiting for. Hawk exhaled, muscles coiled, finger tightening on the trigger. Every SEAL understood the gravity of the moment. Precision, patience, and timing would determine the outcome. The sniper fired, but the SEAL's coordinated suppressive fire kept him pinned. Hawk moved a few steps closer, carefully maintaining cover while observing the enemy's stance, movements, and angles. Viper flanked slightly, providing additional pressure. Jace coordinated from behind, ensuring the sniper could not escape to higher ground or take a more advantageous position. The battlefield had shifted. The ghost was no longer in control. Suddenly, the sniper made a desperate move, attempting to reposition to a more secure outcrop. Hawk fired a calculated shot, striking near the sniper and forcing him to halt. Viper adjusted his aim, covering a potential escape path. The sniper froze, realizing his options were limited. The SEALs had used strategy, pressure, and ingenuity to manipulate the battlefield, leaving the ghost exposed. Jace whispered, "Prepare for breach." Hawk and Viper acknowledged with subtle nods. Alpha Team moved into position, closing off one flank, while Bravo maintained suppressive fire. The ghost sniper was cornered, forced to defend, and any misstep could be fatal. Hawk's focus was absolute. Every breath, every movement, every calculation aimed at controlling the final confrontation. The sniper fired again, attempting to create an opening, but his position was compromised. Hawk returned fire with precision, keeping the enemy pinned. Dust and fragments erupted around the sniper, forcing him to retreat slightly. Jace signaled for coordinated pressure. The SEALs advanced as one, methodically, strategically, closing the gap. Every step was deliberate, every angle covered, every sector monitored. Finally, the ghost sniper emerged briefly from cover, aiming to take a shot. Hawk held his fire, waiting for the perfect moment. Viper adjusted suppressive fire, ensuring the sniper could not reposition. Jace's signal was subtle but clear. Engage. Hawk fired, a precise shot that forced the sniper to drop his weapon and scramble for cover. The SEALs pressed forward, maintaining pressure, closing the distance relentlessly. The sniper made one final attempt to escape, but the SEALs anticipated the move. Hawk and Viper flanked, cutting off all retreat. Alpha Team advanced from above, ensuring the sniper could not reach higher ground. The ghost sniper, once a phantom of the mountains, was now exposed and vulnerable. Every ounce of skill, patience, and terror that had defined him was countered by the SEAL's strategy, coordination, and adaptability. Jace moved forward, rifle ready, eyes scanning. "Hold your fire until he fully exposes himself," he whispered. The sniper, realizing his options were gone, attempted a desperate maneuver to retreat to a lower ledge. Hawk fired a controlled shot, forcing him to halt. Viper's covering fire ensured no escape. The mountains, once dominated by fear and unpredictability, now favored the SEALs. The final seconds were tense, stretching into eternity. Hawk inched forward, maintaining cover, rifle trained, eyes locked on the enemy. The ghost sniper fired one last round and dropped to the ground, conceding the battle. The SEALs moved in, securing the position, ensuring the sniper was neutralized. Relief mixed with exhaustion, adrenaline still coursing through every vein. The battle had been won, but at the cost of mental and physical strain. Jace surveyed the ridge, ensuring all angles were clear. The ghost sniper, once a legend of fear, was now fully exposed and defeated. Hawk exhaled, muscles trembling slightly, eyes scanning the terrain for any additional threats. The SEALs had survived, adapted, and executed with precision, turning the impossible into victory through teamwork, ingenuity, and discipline. Viper approached Hawk, offering a brief nod of acknowledgement. "We did it," he whispered. Hawk allowed himself a small exhale, adrenaline slowly ebbing. The mountains were silent once more, the fog curling around jagged rocks, witnessing the end of the deadly confrontation. Jace moved to the front, surveying the battlefield, ensuring the team's safety and consolidating positions. The ghost sniper's legend had been formidable, but the SEAL team had turned strategy, discipline, and adaptability into the decisive edge. Hawk realized that the battle had tested more than physical skill. It had tested nerves, coordination, and the ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. The mountains, once a realm of fear and uncertainty, were now a testament to their triumph. As the SEALs regrouped, tending to minor injuries, checking ammunition, and securing the area, Hawk allowed himself a rare moment to reflect. The ghost sniper had been real, deadly, and unpredictable, But he was human, and humans could be outmaneuvered. Teamwork, ingenuity, and relentless coordination had triumphed over skill and fear alone. Jace surveyed his team, pride and respect evident in his eyes. We adapted, we survived, and we executed perfectly. Remember this moment. Remember what we accomplished together, he said quietly. Every SEAL understood the significance. The mission was not only about neutralizing a threat, but proving that discipline, strategy, and cohesion could overcome even the most fearsome opponent. Hawk looked at the mountains, now quiet, except for the faint whisper of wind through jagged rocks. The battle was over, but the memory of the ghost sniper's precision and patience would remain. He realized that the mission had tested more than skill. It had tested courage, composure, and the strength of unity under pressure. The SEALs prepared for extraction, moving carefully down the spine, ensuring the area was secure. The mountains had been conquered, but respect for their deadly beauty remained. Every member of the team carried the lessons of the engagement: vigilance, coordination, and the unyielding necessity of adapting to the unexpected. Hawk allowed himself a deep breath, the first unguarded exhale in hours. The ghost sniper had been cornered and neutralized, but the experience would remain, a vivid reminder of the thin line between life and death, fear and triumph. The SEALs descended, the spine fading behind them, leaving only the echoes of a battle fought with precision, patience, and unmatched teamwork. The spine was silent now, its jagged peaks and shadowed crevices no longer echoing the tension and deadly precision of the ghost sniper. Commander Jace Lawson led the SEAL team along the narrow ridge, eyes scanning the terrain even as adrenaline ebbed. Every movement remained deliberate, every step calculated. Survival had required vigilance, precision, and coordination. And now that the battle was over, the team faced the next challenge: extraction. Hawk adjusted his pack, rifle slung carefully across his shoulder, scanning for potential hazards. The mountains had been a labyrinth of danger, and the ghost sniper had been a master of exploitation. But the SEALs had adapted, turning fear and uncertainty into strategy, using the terrain and each other as allies. Hawk reflected briefly on the intensity of the past hours, the adrenaline, the fear, and the meticulous coordination that had turned a deadly ambush into victory. Viper moved alongside Hawk, eyes sharp, scanning their flanks. "We've survived worse," he said quietly, his voice calm despite the exhaustion etched across his features. Hawk allowed a small nod, acknowledging both the statement and the truth it carried. Survival had been earned through discipline, teamwork, and unwavering focus. Each SEAL knew that the ghost sniper had tested not only their skill, but their nerve, their patience, and their cohesion. Jace signaled a brief halt near a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley below. From this vantage, he could see the extraction point, where helicopters would descend to retrieve the team. Hawk and Viper crouched, rifles ready, scanning the surrounding ridges for any unexpected threats. The mountains were deceptive. Even with the ghost sniper neutralized, the terrain demanded continued vigilance. "Good work up here," Jace said quietly, surveying the team. "We adapted, we survived, and we executed perfectly. Remember this. This mission proves that skill alone isn't enough. Coordination, patience, and unity make the difference." Hawk felt a quiet pride, tempered by exhaustion. Every SEAL had performed flawlessly under pressure, navigating the spine with both skill and ingenuity. As the helicopters descended, rotor wash kicking up dust and debris, the team moved into position for extraction. Hawk felt the familiar pull of relief mixed with residual tension. The mountains were unforgiving, and the ghost sniper had proven to be a formidable adversary. Yet the SEALs' preparation, adaptability, and trust in each other had transformed a near-impossible mission into a success. The ghost sniper lay neutralized, and the team had maintained cohesion throughout. Hawk allowed himself a brief moment to reflect. The danger had been real, the stakes incredibly high, and the margin for error razor thin. Every shot fired, every movement calculated, had been a test not just of skill, but of nerve and judgment. This was the essence of being a SEAL. Precision under pressure, discipline in chaos, and unwavering reliance on the team. Viper glanced at Hawk as they moved toward the helicopter. "We pushed him to the edge," he said, voice low but edged with satisfaction. Hawk nodded. The ghost sniper had been patient, precise, and lethal, but the SEAL's relentless pressure, coordination, and ingenuity had forced him into exposure, culminating in a decisive counterattack. The battle had tested them physically, mentally, and emotionally, and they had prevailed. The helicopter landed with a thrum of rotors, and the team moved quickly to board. Hawk, Viper, and the others secured their gear, weapons ready in case of unforeseen threats. The mountains, silent witnesses to the deadly engagement, loomed around them as the helicopter lifted, rotor wash scattering mist and dust across the jagged ridges. Hawk felt a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and profound respect for the terrain they had navigated and the enemy they had faced. Jace sat near the front, eyes scanning the mountains below. "This mission wasn't just about neutralizing the threat," he said quietly. "It was about proving that discipline, preparation, and teamwork can overcome even the most skilled adversary. Every one of you performed flawlessly. Take that knowledge with you. It's what will keep you alive in the future." Hawk allowed himself a quiet nod, absorbing the gravity of the statement. The ghost sniper's reputation had been formidable, but the SEAL's coordinated strategy had proven superior. As the helicopter carried them away from the spine, Hawk reflected on the battle. The ghost sniper had forced them to adapt constantly, anticipating their movements, exploiting every angle, and creating a psychological pressure that tested nerves as much as reflexes. Yet the team's discipline, ingenuity, and unity had turned that pressure into an advantage, allowing them to dictate the flow of engagement and ultimately neutralize the threat. The mountains receded beneath them, shrouded in mist and silence. Hawk thought of the risks, the calculations, and the moments where instinct and training had intersected perfectly. Every member of the team had been tested to the limits of endurance, patience, and focus. The ghost sniper had been a formidable opponent, but in the end, the SEAL's preparation, coordination, and adaptability had ensured victory. Viper rested briefly, catching his breath and surveying the ridges they had conquered. "I've never seen a sniper push a team like that before," he admitted quietly. Hawk nodded in agreement. The ghost sniper had been relentless, exploiting terrain, patience, and precision. But he had been human, and humans could be outmaneuvered, especially by a team operating as a single, cohesive unit. Jace addressed the team one final time as they approached base. "Today, you prove that even the deadliest adversary can be countered with strategy, precision, and teamwork. Remember this lesson. Confidence in your training and in each other is what ensures survival when the stakes are highest." Hawk felt the weight of the words. The spine had been a crucible, testing not just skill but nerves, discipline, and unity. Back at base, the team disembarked quietly, each SEAL reflecting on the engagement. Hawk cleaned his weapon methodically, muscles still taut from hours of stress and precision. Viper sat nearby, tending to minor scrapes and inspecting gear. Jace moved among them, ensuring everyone was accounted for, injuries treated, and debriefs prepared. The mission was over, but its lessons would linger. Hawk thought about the ghost sniper, a figure of fear and precision. The legend had been terrifying, testing them at every turn. But in the end, it was teamwork, preparation, and coordinated strategy that had prevailed. Each SEAL had contributed, covering angles, maintaining suppressive fire, anticipating movements, and adapting instantly. The impossible had been accomplished through unity, ingenuity, and discipline. Evenings in the base were quiet after the mission. Hawk sat alone briefly, reflecting on the spine and the ghost sniper. The mountains had been unforgiving, the enemy skilled, and the engagement intense. Yet the SEALs had demonstrated the essence of their training: patience, precision, and cohesion under pressure. They had survived, adapted, and conquered. Commander Jace Lawson approached, placing a hand on Hawk's shoulder. "You did well," he said quietly. "Every one of you did. The spine is a deadly place, and today you proved what SEALs are capable of when they act as one. Remember this mission, not just for the victory, but for the discipline, focus, and teamwork it demanded." Hawk nodded, absorbing the weight of the statement. The ghost sniper had tested them in ways no simulation could replicate, but the SEALs had risen to the challenge. Hawk's thoughts drifted to home, to the people waiting for their return, and to the lessons learned in the mountains. Fear, danger, and precision had intertwined to create a crucible that tested nerves, instincts, and coordination. The SEALs had faced a legend, survived, and prevailed. In doing so, they had reaffirmed the power of training, strategy, and unity. As night fell over the base, the SEALs gathered for a final debrief. Maps, photographs, and notes were reviewed. The ghost sniper had been neutralized, the mission a success, but the lessons endured. Vigilance, adaptability, teamwork, and patience were the keys to survival. Hawk felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, tempered by respect for the mountains and the enemy that had tested them so fiercely. The spine faded into memory, but its lessons would remain with every SEAL forever. Hawk understood now that fear was not the enemy. Hesitation was. Discipline, preparation, and trust in the team were what turned peril into victory. The ghost sniper's legacy had challenged them, but it had also defined the excellence of their response. As the base settled into quiet, Hawk looked out at the horizon, thinking of the mountains, the battle, and the teamwork that had prevailed. The ghost sniper had been a phantom, a legend, and a test, but the SEALs had adapted, coordinated, and conquered. And in that conquest lay the essence of survival, skill, and unity.